Okay guys, I'm making this video because I couldn't find any videos of it already, and I think it's probably a pretty popular question among the Subaru community, those guys that actually work on them anyway. I've got this crankshaft. It's a EJ257 crankshaft out of a regular 2009 Outback. Non-turbo, just normally aspirated, and it had a spun bearing. You can see the #1 journal for the rod right here has spun a bearing and has quite a bit of deposit left from the bearing on there. I think it probably could be salvaged if I brought it to a machine shop. But I'm guessing it's probably going to be a couple $100 out the door by the time I'm said and done. And I still got to get a new set of bearings and everything for it. So I started looking around, and on eBay there's somebody selling Chinese crankshafts now with lifetime warranties, guaranteed to be high quality and nitride coated. And so I believe it was also for the allowed to be used in the STI or WRXs, etc., because of that nitride coating. Anyhow, I'll put a listing on the description area here below to where I got that at. But this is the original one out of the car, so Subaru, made in Japan. And we're going to go ahead and compare the two. So let's put this aside, and I'll grab the box that I got with the Chinese crankshaft, and we'll open it up together and see what we got. Doesn't feel like it feels packed pretty well. It's not like shaking around in there or anything, so it's not poking out one of the sides of the box like a lot of times you get stuff, and the box comes all smashed up and the parts hanging out, so it's a good sign anyway. Oh, and they've got it packed with that high density foam. Let's make sure that you guys can see what's going on here. Yeah, okay, let me lift this up a little bit. Let's get you closer. So we got this high density foam in here on top at least. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a nice thick piece of foam. And then another one. Okay. And if you look down in there, it looks like we got some kind of, oh yeah, it's a nice cushiony wax paper, and the whole box is lined with that thick foam, so that's great. Alright, well, let me put this down and we'll pull it out. See what we got. Yeah, there you go. Nice. Actually pretty impressed the way they packed it. It's pretty good. Well, a lot of the stuff I've seen anyway. Put that aside. Oh, okay. Well, first impressions are pretty good. It looks like pretty good machining done on this thing. And I don't see any like chips or leftover residue from machining process. You know, a lot of Chinese parts, that's the first thing I look for is little metal chips and stuff, which I think is usually why stuff fails, is it's just not cleaned properly, and then people just throw it in and and you'll have that stuff in your oil, and then it'll start wearing stuff out prematurely. So I don't see any of that going on here. It looks like it was cleaned up really well, and it's got a nice coating of some kind of oil all over it. Huh. There you go. That all feels really good. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and mount this like the original one there, and then we'll take some measurements and see how it stacks up. All right, give me a second. Okay guys, we're back. So I went ahead and took all my measurements so I wouldn't bore you to death with that. I just used my crappy calipers because I don't have a good micrometer yet. I mean, they're not super bad, but they're just digital Pittsburgh calipers. But my main concern was consistency between the two. And it looks like we're pretty much dead on between the two. For the rear main seal, the large section down there where the rear main seal goes, we got 85.85 millimeters, same on both ones. And pretty much all the crank journals and all the rod journals were exactly dead nuts on at 59.95 millimeters for the crank journals, and then 51.95 millimeters for the rod journals. I had a few on the Subaru Japan one, and there was a couple that had more or less, or pretty much less, just by a millimeter or two. But that's of course from the wear. It's got 130,000 miles on that used crank, and of course the spun one doesn't count. I've lost about a half a millimeter on that spun one, which I think is probably salvageable. I haven't taken it to a machinist or dealt with that before, but it seems like they'd be able to clean that up, and I just do an oversized bearing and probably be fine. But again, I'm guessing it's probably going to cost $200 plus I have to take it there and pick it up and deal with that whole thing and whatnot. So I also did the total length between the two, and those are also exactly the same. I didn't have a metric ruler, so I just used my tape measure, and it's 13 3/4 inches between the very top to the very back of the crankshafts on both of them, so that's dead nuts as well. I also measured the front seal, where that front oil seal goes, and again those are pretty much right the same. There was 32.95 for the new Chinese one, and 32.94 is what I got on the used one. But you can see there's a bit of wear on there, so I'm guessing it was the same when it was brand new at 32.95. And then the oil drive itself, the round part, was 37.57 on the Chinese one and 37.58 on the Subaru one, which pretty much right there at the same. And then the square part was dead nuts at 34. The part that actually counts and fits in the oil pump is right at 34 millimeters. Yeah, so, and then I didn't have an exact way to measure between the offset, what they call the crank journal to rod journal throw offset or stroke offset. Measured center to center, it's 39.5, which is exactly what the book says it's supposed to be on both ones. Like I said, I couldn't exactly get it there, but they're both the same, from what I can tell. And so now I'm going to go ahead and take these flywheels or the flex plates off, and we're going to actually get a weight between the two. They both I think are cast, crankshafts, and they look pretty much similar in their makeup. I think it seems like the Subaru one has finer, you know, when you have casting, you can kind of see a grit on the unfinished casting, and it seems like it's a little finer on the Subaru one than the cast on the Chinese one, but I'm not sure it really matters. And then I also did double check the listing, and yes, this is being sold as an EJ255, EJ257 nitride coated crankshaft. So it technically should be an upgrade over this one, which is just a standard normally aspirated EJ25, in this case EJ253 crankshaft. So it says that it's stronger on the listing, and it says it's got a lifetime warranty on it, which is the reason I bought it. Just in case things didn't measure out, I could easily return it. And when I put the flex plate on, it was definitely a nice tight fit when I put the flex plate around the little mounting butt in the bottom there, right here, but it went right on, and the threads felt good when I put the screws in. No binding or anything like that. The only thing that I did notice, and they both have play, and it probably doesn't mean anything, was when the actual crank balancer pulley nut here, or bolt, goes in. There's a little bit of play. You know, the further it comes out, the more play there is. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but there's definitely some play on the Subaru one. And when I put it in the other one, I feel like there's a little more play there. You know, it gets better as we get closer in, but still there's a little bit more play in there on those threads. So just be aware of that. I have no doubt, because of the amount of threads, and it does thread all the way down in there, and it doesn't bind at all. I did blow it out just to make sure there was nothing in there. But that's the only thing so far that has seemed a little looser than the actual Japanese Subaru part. And then while I was at it, I had the air gun out. I went ahead and blew through all these journals, all the oil passages, and I didn't get any debris out of them. I got some oil out of them, but that was it. So that was nice to see that I didn't get any chips or anything coming out of there. So that builds more confidence as far as it being a clean part. When I do go ahead and install this, I will squirt the whole thing down with WD-40 and then blow them all back out again, just to be sure there's no debris in there. Okay, I'm going to shut you off, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull the plates off, and I'll see you again when I've got my scale out. Okay. Okay guys, we're back. Let's go ahead and zero out this scale here. So we'll measure the original one first. Got it set up for pound ounces. Alright, so the original one, we've got 20 pounds, 4.5 ounces. Okay. The new one, wow, okay, 18 pounds, 12 ounces. So, yeah, a couple pounds lighter. That's interesting. Okay. So I did look up what it should weigh. And for an EJ253, which is that guy over there, I couldn't find. I used Grok, which, by the way, if you guys haven't started using AI for looking up stuff, it saves a bunch of time and hair. I can tell you that much. But for technical stuff, Grok seems really good. I'm liking it. But anyway, it gave me, for the EJ253, anywhere between 20 and 30 pounds. I'm guessing that the 30 pounds would be with bearings on it, fully dressed. But somewhere between 20 and 30 pounds. And we got 20 pounds, 4.5 ounces. So that's right there what we would expect. And then for an EJ255 and 257, I would imagine is the same. Should be right at 17 pounds or 17.86 pounds. So just under 18 pounds for an EJ255 crank. And we got 18 pounds, 12 ounces. So just slightly more than the Subaru OEM EJ255 crankshaft. So it's right there. Okay. So that's that. Now let's, I'm going to go ahead and put these cranks side by side so we can look if there's any physical differences between them. All right, so I did my best to line these things up side by side so we can tell if there's any major differences, and honestly I don't really see anything majorly different. The one thing I did notice was the actual oil, the little reliefs here for where the oil comes out. On the Chinese one, it seems like a smoother transition when I run over my finger over it. Like it's smoother there, where it seems like sharper edges on the original. So I don't know, it seems like that'd be better to have it smooth like that, because if for some reason one of these sharp edges, I don't know, caught a piece of debris, it could start to eat up that bearing a lot quicker. In other words, it has more opportunity, or it's more likely for something to catch the edge here on this original than on the Chinese one. Not sure what that's all about, but let me get a little closer here so you can actually see what I'm talking about with the how the casting looks a little rougher on the Chinese version versus the casting, the unmachined parts of the casting on the original. Otherwise, physically, they look pretty much the same. This one has a number printed on it. There. So does this one. Kind of hard to read because it's got some, I guess that's rust on there. Huh, I wonder if this had some water sitting in the oil for a while. Maybe that's why it failed. Here's the rear ends. Oh, one thing I noticed that is different, I'm not sure if it matters or not, maybe you guys can tell me, but there's a slight relief between the journal and the knives, I guess you call them. There between all the journals on the original. It's not much, I can just barely feel it with my fingernail, whereas there's pretty much nothing. Yeah, there's nothing between the journals and the knife edges on the Chinese version. So let me know if that makes any difference or not, any of you guys that specialize in this stuff. otherwise, I think that's gonna do it. So anyway, that's the down and dirty on this crankshaft. Overall, it looks pretty good. I'm gonna throw it in and see how it goes. I did look it back up. I paid for the crank and the bearings. Oh yeah, so that's another thing about this is for basically $280 shipped to my door. I got the crankshaft and I got the rod and crank bearings for it. I wasn't too impressed with the way they shipped the bearings. They just sent it in this bubble pack in these flimsy boxes. Fortunately, it looks like it wasn't drop kicked or anything, but I would have liked to seen it in a beefier box, you know, so with some stuffing to avoid anything. And then I looked these numbers up. So all I saw was made in China, but I did look up these numbers and they come up as ACL numbers. So maybe they're ACL bearings or ACL clones, but here, I'll go ahead and pull these out and we can compare them to the originals. Not that it matters because the originals are 130,000 miles on them now, but we'll get a measurement at least and see if they're comparable. All right, hold on. Okay, you guys, I got these bearings laid out. You can see they came packed in this plastic shrink wrap like most bearings are. They look pretty much the same. I measured them all, and on the rod bearings here we got 1.5 millimeters on both the originals and the new ones. At first glance the old ones look like a different color, but that's just the oil staining, so when you look at the actual bearing material it's the same color. Whether or not it's actually the same alloy or whatever, your guess is as good as mine. And so on the crank bearings we had 1.98 pretty much consistently across all of them. It's 1.98 millimeters. Then when we get down to the we'll call it the thrust bearing, that one threw me for a second there. I got worried. I had to look it up, but on the originals here, for the inside bearing material, we got right at 2 millimeters consistently, and on the new ones I measured 1.94 on the inside material. So that's almost what is that, 600th millimeter difference, which worried me at first, but then I looked it up and it said the standard standard size is between 1.92 and 1.94 millimeters for an EJ255 crank bearing thickness. So that's right within spec. And then I also measured the sidewalls, where, you know, that's actually where the thrust force goes. And on the originals we got 1.95 on one side and 1.88 on the other side. And on the new ones we got 1.94 on one side and 1.88 again on the other side. So pretty darn close. We're only 1/100th off on that one side for the sidewalls. So overall the bearing looks like it's going to be good. It did seem like when I was looking at the side, for the inside material, probably can't really see it very well in the camera, but there's more of a shoulder on the originals than the new ones. It's more, it feels more rolled onto the bearing material from the shell itself, whereas on the older ones there's more of an apparent lip or shoulder there. But other than that, that's the only thing that I noticed that was obvious. Yeah, so I guess that's it. If there's any other questions, just leave it in the comments there, and feel free to roast me. And you know, this is the first one of these I've done, so give me some feedback. And if you liked it or got any useful information out of it, let me know. And maybe we'll do this again sometime. Oh, let me. I'm just gonna dwell on my paperwork here so you can see it. Hopefully, that way you can pause it and look at these numbers if you missed anything or want to go back to it. And also, like I said, I paid $280 delivered to my door for this setup. But when I looked it back up from that same dealer, the price has gone up $200. This is only within like a week for this same setup. So now it was $480 instead of the $280. But I did see other listers selling the same crank for the same price, or maybe even a little less without the bearings. So I'm guessing they're probably the same exact crank, just through different vendors. All right, y'all. Best of luck. See you next time.